What is up again, Internet? This is Virtue Fire with the sixth video in my Be a Scrub tutorial series, not counting the Build a Team series. What I'm going to be talking about today is an idea I actually got from my brother's tabletop strategy gameplay, and that is threat ranges. Now, when I say threat ranges, I mean the maximum distance an opponent can hit you before you have a chance to defend. Now, the idea comes from the tabletop strategy game War Machine, but it applies to pretty much every game, like every game ever, because, you know, you have to consider the threat range of a gun in Call of Duty, or a Colossus in StarCraft, or a million different things in a million different games. But it's just, you're always harder pressed to think about things in fighting games, so you always got to have, you always got to be more aware of what one particular matchup, what that one threat range is. So I'm using Soul Calibur 5 instead of Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom for this exercise, not because it's a better example, because they're all pretty much equal examples, all things ever, but it's a more apparent example for just seeing it visually, because I'm not going to talk about the martial arts here, I'm just going to talk about what you can see in the game. But the stance Mitsurugi has, the character Mitsurugi in Soul Calibur series, it's pretty clear where his threat range is, just like his vertical attacks. Like, you can tell from his shoulders to the tip of his sword, that's where he's going to be hitting, that area. He can extend a little bit, and he has some moves that will make him lunge forward, but he can't do those things without having some sort of mobility or movement beforehand. And that's the kind of thing that that makes it not his legitimate threat range. Like, that and that's his threat range, but the lunge he gets from his back vertical attack, that's not. Just because you can react to that, you can defend against that before it hits you. You can, like, if you're moving and you see him go back for that lunge, you can stop moving and block before he hits you, and you can defend against it, or you can do something that's really fast and counter it. But Mitsurugi is really fast, so good luck finding one of those. Another example is this guy over here, the guy I have on the right, Patroclus. While he doesn't have a sword in front of him, you can still tell by the way he holds it, from his shoulder to the tip of his sword, that's still the maximum length his limb can go outward and still have its sword. He's never going to hit longer than that without some sort of mobility, movement, startup, or something like that. And so that's what you got to think about, like, is, alright, so from what is the maximum limb distance? Because in fighting games, that's what we're working with, is limbs. It's kind of a bit harder to tell with some characters like Dhalsim from the Street Fighter series or Sentinel, but once you start learning the matchup, you'll be able to pretty much just always tell, like, alright, I'm 3/4 of the screen, Dhalsim can stand fierce me in Street Fighter 4. And, you'll just be able to immediately tell without even thinking about it. And that's what as I've said many times before, being able to do something without thinking about it, even if it's just, telling where a punch can go, is very important. Now, Mitsurugi was a good example because his stance shows it without him having to do anything. He's just standing there, and you can see his threat range. Same thing with Patroclus. He's standing there, you can see that his limb can only go about, 2 or 3 feet from his body, and his sword is another foot, and so all you got to worry about is that 3 to 4 foot area. Now, you can see that on them, but with a lot of 2D fighters, you can't really tell because people aren't holding weapons. They're taking, like, goofy martial arts stances and stuff. Not that martial arts stances are goofy, but the stances they take are goofy. Like Jury? Come on, that's not martial arts. But anyways, you can't tell their threat range because they're not having their body already at the maximum threat range. Like Mitsurugi, that stance is made so if you run at him, you're going to run right into the end of the sword. That's why he holds it all the way out there like that. But you don't really have the same thing with a 2D fighter because it's whoopsie. Oh damn it, I picked the wrong super. Alright, I can go back. You don't really have that with 2D fighting games because it's non-weapons fighting. And so here we have Chun-Li, and I'm not going to get into the tier list of this game at all. I'm using Chun-Li just because she's an easy example. But as you can see, her stand H is really long range. So is, well, the stand roundhouse is long range in Street Fighter 4, but her crouch roundhouse is a good example as well. Her stand H, her forward and neutral fierce in this game, because her back H goes into that. But that is a really long range move, and it's not really clear just from her stance, how she's standing, that is her maximum range. That's where you got to start learning mashups, is when somebody isn't obviously capable of just hitting a point before you can defend it. Like, if I'm right here, I have to either get out of that range, or have something that beats that range, or defend against it, because, or have something that beats that move, or defend against it, because she can instantly hit me before I can react. And so, even if I'm completely safe, if I didn't just, like, if I didn't just whiff a Shoryuken, she can still, like, if I'm not blocking, bam, random H, good amount of my health, like, good all things considered in this game. And so that's what you got to think about. And when you get into the area of Marvel vs. Capcom, and as a quick note, that sort of thing is always changing in a game like this. Like, I accidentally picked her Super 1, but with her Super 2 and her Ultra 1 in her Ultra 1 in Super Street Fighter 4, you always gotta watch out at, like, full screen. You can't throw fireballs because her threat range is suddenly that length. It's suddenly that full screen length, just because her Ultra 1 will clear all that distance. Her Super 1 in this has sort of the same thing, except it's roughly the stand fierce range. Let's see if I can. Yeah, it's like she does have a bit more range with this one, but it's negligible compared to her stand fierce and Super R2. I'm gonna go back to Marvel vs. Capcom 3 because it's ever changing in Marvel vs. Capcom 3 as well, but in a much more chaotic way. There's a lot more characters, there's a lot more mobility options and speed options that make it so somebody can do something before you can react to it, and it still takes them they can go a really long distance before you can even react to it. Like, a character can clear the screen in less than half a second easily. I am very confident in stating that. I don't know the frame data of a lot of people's tri-jumps and stuff, or super tri-jumps, or teleports, but I know for a fact, just from what I've played, that people can easily clear the screen and be right up in your face in less than half a second. I make all these qualifications because I know for sure that, saying something like can be done in less than half a second sounds ridiculously fast, but, considering this Marvel, it's not that ridiculous once you actually get in the game and start looking at it, and that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to bring up, again, Magneto and his Super Jump Tri-Jump. I've actually taken Magneto off my team. I reformed my team into Nova Super Skrull Trish because dudes from outer space are cool. And so, once I get through all these menus and stuff, I will have Magneto, and I can show you exactly what I mean by chaotic threat range, because that's what you got to call it in the case of Marvel vs. Capcom, is that threat range isn't just unclear because because the way they stand isn't as evident as Mitsurugi's stance. You can't tell Magneto's H goes ridiculously far just by the way he stands, but because you can't tell Magneto's super jump, tri-jump distance, just by the way he hangs out on one side of the screen. And so from about here, like, you might be able to react to that, but in the middle of everything going on, that could be something that's really hard to spot, something that's really hard to stop at least, something really hard to defend against. Like, other than block, something that fast is full screen. I mean, Nemesis is a bit of a strained example because he's so big. I'll bring in Spencer and I'll see if it works on him, but yeah, it's harder to do on smaller characters, but still, in a bit of a taller, a higher jump, Magneto can easily hit anybody from anywhere on the screen, and that's part of his character. That's part of the matchup you need to learn, is that you have to be ready for him to come at you at any point. And so there are like varying degrees of this. Like Arthur, you know, he's not going anywhere very fast. Let's be frank. I mean, I'm not going to say he's a bad character, because I do love his level 3 and love his like infinite chip loops in I think it's X Factor level 3. I don't think he even needs the armor once he hits level 3 X Factor. But like, he's not going to get to you before you can stop him. He's not going to. You're not going to have to play mind games. Arthur can't play mind games as to whether or not he's going to dash up and go low, or super jump in and dash high, and or super jump in and hit high. Yeah, there are varying degrees of threat range capabilities, and you just gotta learn matchups, learn how to spot them, and especially when they're less apparent than Mitsurugi's. And so that's all I'll be talking about today. I do want to get back into my build a team tutorial series, because it has been a while since I've done a video, but I thought this was a really good thing to bring it back in. I think I took 2 weeks off of making videos. Not that I have an audience that I need to please. I'm not saying that I'm super popular. I'm just saying that it's been a while, and it's something that I really like to dedicate to. This is a good topic, I think, just because it applies to so many games. You can watch this and take this knowledge to like StarCraft and say, all right, a Colossus can hit me from, say, here, like, this is a fighting game, but a Colossus can hit me from, say, up here, so I better stay away from the Colossus when I shouldn't stay right there when the Colossus is up here. I should get further back. It's those kinds of things that can be taken to any game. I shouldn't get near the guy with the shotgun in Call of Duty. I should try and get into a close range game when somebody has a sniper rifle in Counter-Strike. That sort of thing. Yeah, that's what you got to keep in mind, is matchups. Is he can super jump, he can do other stuff, but not super jump. That's what it boils down to. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, leave feedback, criticism, constructive, anything like that. Just don't be a dick about it. And tell your friends about me. GG, Internet.